Methods for comparing classifiers. It is often useful to compare the performance of different classifiers to determine which classifiers work better on a given data set. So when we have to work with multiple classifiers and when we know about it, so it is better to check which classifier works better. So for that, we have to compare the performance of different classifiers. That is, whatever the classifier we know or whatever we have implemented, we can compare that. We can compare that with the same data set and we can check how best it works, how better it is. However, depending on the size of the data, the observed difference in accuracy between two classifiers may not be statistically significant. So depending on the size of the data, that is when we have the certain size of the data and the observed difference in accuracy between two classifiers, that is when we have different size of data for different classifier. Okay, different size of data for different classifier. At that time, it is difficult to find out the difference in accuracy with the statistically significant, whether it is statistically significant or not. For example, consider two models, MA and MB. Okay, two models, that is classification models, MA and MB. Suppose MA achieves 85% accuracy when evaluated on a test set containing 30 records. So we are evaluating accuracy of model MA on the data set which contains 30 records, while MB achieves 75% accuracy on the different test set which contains 5,000 records. So here we are evaluating accuracy of model MA on only 30 records, and on MB we are evaluating on 5,000 records. So based on this information, can we say that MA a better model than MB? That is the question. So here we cannot directly say that MA is better than MB because of this accuracy. It is giving 85% accuracy and it is giving 75% accuracy. We cannot say that. So when we are working with two classifier, what we have to do, we have to use the same set of records for comparing these two models. Then only we can find out the difference between these two. Okay, so only with the 30 records it is 85% and with 5,000 records it is 75%, means we cannot say MA is better. Okay, the preceding example, the example which we have discussed just now, raises two key questions regarding the statistical significance of the performance metrics. First one is, although MA has a higher accuracy than MB, it was tested on a smaller test set. How much confidence can we place on the accuracy of MA? Okay, what is the confidence that we can have on the accuracy of the model, classification model MA? Okay, because it is tested on the smaller test set. Then is it possible to explain the difference in accuracy as a result of variations in the composition of the test sets? So here we have a difference, right? We have a difference between MA and MB. With the test set also, it is different. Test set what we have, for MA we have only 30 records and for MB we have 5,000 records, and type of the record is also different. That is different data set and this is different data set. When we have such a data set and such a situation, can we explain the difference in accuracy? Here, accuracy as a result of variations in the composition of the test sets. Based on the test set, can we find out the difference in the results? The first question relates to the issue of estimating the confidence interval of a given model accuracy. How confidently we can say that accuracy of ME is better? Okay, that is the first question. Second question is, it relates to the issue of testing the statistical significance of the observed deviation. So here we have a deviation between these two results, right? MA and MB. We have variation. It is giving, MA is giving 85% accuracy on 30 records, and 75% MB is giving 75% accuracy on 5,000 records. So here this question is related to statistical significance of the observed deviation. Estimating a confidence interval for accuracy. To determine the confidence interval, we need to establish the probability distribution that governs the accuracy measure. To determine the confidence interval, to find out the confidence interval, we have to find the probability distribution that is based on the accuracy measure. What kind of probability distribution the data set is using? We have to find out that. There is an approach for deriving the confidence interval by modeling the classification task as a binomial experiment. Here, binomial experiment is also a binomial distribution. Okay, we have normal distribution, we have binomial distribution, we have Bernoulli distribution, many distributions we have. Among that, we are considering binomial distribution, binomial experiment. Following is a list of characteristics of a binomial experiment. First one, the experiment consists of n independent trials. Okay, one trial doesn't depend on another trial. Okay, n number of independent trials. The experiment consists of n number of independent trials, where each trial has two possible outcomes. Each trial will be having two possible outcomes, either success or failure. Okay, either success or failure. The experiment will be successful or it will be a failure. Okay, two outcome we have. Then the probability of success P. Probability is for the success is P in each trial is constant because it is independent of each other. N number of trials, whatever we are going to perform, it is independent of each other. So probability of successful experiment is P, which is constant. Okay, which is constant for each trial. An example of binomial experiment is counting the number of heads that turn up when a coin is flipped n times. When a coin is flipped n times, so we'll be having two sides, right? Head and tail will be having two sides. Here we have to count the number of heads that turn up. Okay, for example, if it is flipped for 10 times, how many times we got head? Okay, so this is a binomial experiment. Okay, this is a binomial experiment. If x is the number of successes observed in n trials, that is x is the number of heads. If x is the number of heads, then the probability that x takes a particular value is given by binomial distribution. Here they have specified it as particular value because you might be counting head or you might be counting tail. It depends on the experiment again, right? So they have specified it as a particular value. So we have considered it as head. Okay, so here particular value is head. We are going to count the number of heads that turn up when we flipped coin n number of times. So if x is the number of successes observed in n trials, then the probability of x takes a particular value is given by a binomial distribution with mean value np and variance np into 1 minus p. So this is the binomial distribution for coin flipping experiment. Okay, mean value is np and variance is np into 1 minus p. So which is given by probability of x is equal to value v. This value v can be heads, number of heads or number of tails. Okay, which is equal to binomial distribution of np. This is finding out the combinations. That is n factorial divided by n minus p factorial into p factorial. Okay, that is this np within the bracket. Okay, so that is combinations of n and p, then probability of the value to the power of V is how many times this value occurred. Okay, how many times this value occurred. Then 1 minus P whole to the power of N minus P. N is number of trials, and V is that is how many times that value occurred, head or tail. For example, if the coin is fair means it doesn't have bent or anything. Okay, it is fair coin and is flipped 50 times. Okay, consider it is flipped 50 number of times, then the probability that the head show up 20 times is. So here you can notice probability P is equal to 0.5 because coin is fair. We cannot say that head will get head more number of times or tail more number of times. Okay, so we have equal number of probability of getting head and tail, 50%. 50% for both the cases, 50% plus 50%, 100%. Okay, so 50% for head and 50% for tail. So probability is equal to, probability P is equal to 0.5 here because coin is fair coin. So we cannot predict how many times it will So we cannot predict how many times will get head or how many times will get tail. Okay, so here we are going to flip the coin for 50 times and then we are going to find out the probability that head show up 20 times. So which is equal to P of X is equal to 20. So here we are going to count the heads, right? So X value is 20. Among 50, what is the arrangement of 20? How many times we have to get heads? 20 times. So 50, 20, this is the combinations. 50 factorial divided by 50 minus 20 factorial into 20 factorial. Okay, so into here for each case, for head or tail, we have same probability, that is 0.5. 0.5 to the power of 20 into 1 minus 0.5 to the power of 30. That is number of times we are flipping the coin is 50 times. 50 minus heads turn up 20 times. So 50 minus 20, which is equal to 30. So 1 minus 0.5 to the power of 30, which is equal to 50 factorial divided by 50 minus 20 factorial into 20 factorial into 0.5 to the power of 20 into 1 minus 0.5 to the power of 30. So when we simplify this, we'll get the value as 0.0419. If the experiment is repeated many times, then the average number of heads expected to show up is 50 into 0.5, which is equal to 25. And its variance is 50 into 0.5 into 0.5, which is equal to 12.5. Okay, this same experiment, that is flipping the coin for 50 times. Okay, flipping the coin for 50 times. If it is repeated many times, so among 50, we can say that on the average number of heads expected will be 25. That is 50%. Okay, it will be 50%. So 25, while its mean, that is the mean. Mean means your average number of times we get the heads. Okay, and its variance will be 50 into 0.5 into 0.5. 0.5 for head and 0.5 for tail. So it will be equal to 12.5. The task of predicting the class labels of test records can also be considered as a binomial experiment. So here in classification task, what is the work of classifier? It has to classify the new experiment which we are giving to it, right? So here predicting this class labels for the test records, for the test record, we can consider it as a binomial experiment. Given a test set that contains n record, let X be the number of records correctly predicted, correctly classified by a model, and P be the true accuracy of the model. So here let us consider that we have n number of records and X is the number of records that are correctly classified by the classifier, and P is the true accuracy of the model. By modeling the prediction task as a binomial experiment, X has a binomial distribution with mean NP and variance NP into 1 minus P. Because here we are considering it as a binomial distribution. Okay, predicting the class table is also binomial distribution. That's why we have mean NP and variance NP into 1 minus P. It can be shown that the empirical accuracy ACC is equal to X divided by N. X is the number of records that are correctly classified, and N is the total number of records. So X divided by N, that is accuracy, and it has a binomial distribution with mean P and variance P into 1 minus P divided by N. The binomial distribution can be used to estimate the confidence interval for ACC, that is accuracy. It is often approximated by a normal distribution when N is sufficiently large. So instead of using binomial distribution, we can use normal distribution when we have large number of records. Number of records is more, that is N is sufficiently large. Based on the normal distribution, the following confidence interval for ACC can be derived. So what is that? So it is P into ACC minus P divided by square root of P into 1 minus P divided by N is greater than or equal to minus Z alpha by 2 and less than or equal to Z 1 minus alpha by 2, which is equal to 1 minus alpha. Where this Z alpha by 2 and Z 1 minus alpha by 2 are the upper and lower bounds obtained from a standard normal distribution at confidence level 1 minus alpha. Okay, Z alpha by 2 and Z 1 minus alpha by 2 are upper and lower bounds. These are upper and lower bounds which are taken from the normal distribution at the confidence level 1 minus alpha. Since a standard normal distribution is symmetric around Z is equal to 0. Remember that standard normal distribution is symmetric around Z is equal to 0. We'll get the equal value for Z alpha by 2 and Z 1 minus alpha by 2. For example, if alpha is equal to 100 means alpha by 2, it is 50. 1 minus 50 is also 50. Sorry, 1 minus 50 means 0.5 here. Okay, when we take the 100% value as a probability, since it is a probability distribution, it can vary from 0 to 1. It can vary from 0 to 1. 1 divided by alpha, it is 0.5. 1 minus 0.5, it is also 0.5. So these two values are equal. Okay, that is standard if we are using standard normal distribution. Rearranging this inequality leads to the following confidence interval for P. 2n into accuracy plus Z alpha by 2 square plus or minus Z alpha by 2 into square root of Z alpha by 2 square plus 4n into accuracy minus 4n into accuracy square divided by 2 into n plus Z square Z alpha by 2 square. Okay, so this is the confidence interval for P. So here we have plus or minus. So we have to check for plus also, we have to check for minus also. Okay, since we have plus or minus, so we have to check for by putting plus sign also. We have to check by putting minus sign also. Okay, the following table shows the value of Z alpha by 2 at different confidence level. So 1 minus alpha is 0.99, 0.98, 0.95, 0.9, 0.8, 0.7, 0.5 we have. This is 1 minus alpha. So confidence interval at these values, Z alpha by 2 is 2.58, 2.33, 1.96, 1.65, 1.28, 1.04 and 0.67. These are some of the values they have considered for 1 minus alpha. Okay. So consider a model that has an accuracy of 80% when evaluated on 100 test records. We have a model that has accuracy, that is here classification model or classifier, which has accuracy 80% when evaluated on 100 test records. What is the confidence interval for its true accuracy at 95% confidence level? Okay, according to the previous table, for 95%, it corresponds to Z alpha by 2, which is equal to 1.96. For 95%, you can see here 1 minus alpha is 0.95 and confidence level is 1.96. According to the table given, inserting this term into equation 4.3, that is the previous slide, this equation 4.13, if we apply these values in that, then we get the confidence interval between 71.1% and 86.7%. The following table shows the confidence interval when the number of records n increases. Okay, consider n is equal to 20. Confidence interval is varying from 0.584 and minus 0.919. That is, I told you we have to apply both plus and minus. Okay, when we apply with the plus sign, we get one value. And when we apply with the negative sign, we get another value, 0.584 and minus 0.919. For 50, we have got 0.670 minus 0.888. And for 100 records, we have 0.711 minus 0.867. This is what they have specified there, that is 71.1% and 86.7%. And then when we have 500 records, it will be 0.763 and minus 0.833. And for 1000 records, 0.774 minus 0.824. And for 5000 records, we have 0.789 and 0.811. You can notice that as the number of records increases, the difference between this positive and negative values is also getting reduced, right? So note that the confidence interval becomes tighter when n increases. The difference between these two values are getting reduced. I hope you can notice that. So 0.584 initially, 0.584 and 0.919. For 5000 records, we have 0.789 and 0.811. So it is varying from 78.9% to 81.1%. Okay, you can notice the difference here. Okay, it is getting, the difference is getting reduced. Okay, this is how we can find out the confidence interval. If you have any doubts, you can ask me.